Hi everyone, welcome to Nana's Tiny Kitchen. Today we're going to be doing, because 'tis the season, and we're only probably less than a week away from St. Patrick's Day. Now, one of the staples that everybody does around this time of year, even though it's not traditional Irish, because if you talk to anybody from Ireland, they didn't eat corned beef and cabbage. It's an Americanized thing, but we've adopted it, and that's been a tradition in my family for a long time. So we're gonna walk through the steps on how to make a really delicious, so easy corned beef. All right, if you buy the store-bought packaged one already, that's fine. If you have loads of time on your hand and you have experience working with brisket, you can certainly do the curing yourself if you have 6 days to spare. But I don't. So I bought a point cut corned beef. And what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of this package and I'm going to give it a good rinse. Because a lot of the times, people that don't like corned beef will say the same thing. It's too salty. I don't want anything that's been cured in tons of salt. So how to cure that a little bit, no pun intended, is to take it out of the package and give it a good rinse. And after that, then when you add it to your pot of water, make sure that there's plenty of water in there, and that'll dilute some of the salt as well. So let's get this one out of its package. This one is probably about it's a little under 3.5 pounds. So it's a decent size. I mean, figure you're going to be doing anywhere from, I think it's about 50 minutes per pound. So let's get this out of its package. And I'm going to give it a rinse. You could probably hear me rinsing this off. And get all that icky, sticky, slimy stuff off of it. Nice. And most of the time, these corned beefs will come with a little flavor packet. It's up to you if you want to use that flavor packet. I like to use it, but what I also like to do is add some extra flavors to that water. So it's not just the flavor packet. The flavor packet is basically just peppercorns, mustard seed, chopped up bay leaf, what else? Juniper. So it's most of the time it's things that, like, I don't really have juniper as one of my spices. Okay, here be the little flavor packet that we're going to add. But what I also like to do is, see, it's nice and rinsed off. This is a really pretty piece of brisket. So this is going to go in my pot. You want a pot that's appropriately sized for the meat and to have plenty of water in there, like I said, to give it a nice cover. In the meantime, I'm going to I have one medium-sized onion. I am going to slice this. Oops, I sliced through it. These are onions from my garden from last fall, which the weather's getting nice and warm now. Yeah, 40 degrees. That's nice and warm. Compared to what it's been, yes, it is. Now, I don't even have to cut up this onion into little pieces. I'm going to leave it whole, and I'm going to just put it right in my pot. Now, when I used to make the brisket, the corned beef, I used to just put the flavor packet in, added some water, brought it to a boil, lowered the temperature, and let it simmer for about 2.5–3 hours. You can also do this in the oven. If you have a pot that can go into the oven, you want to set your temperature at like 275 and with the cover on it, and have that go for about 2.5–3 hours. Remember, it's about 50 minutes per pound, so figure out the math on the size of the brisket that you purchase for your family. This one is pretty much an average size. Now I'm going to add some cloves of garlic. Now, you know by watching my other videos that everything in this house is garlic. Garlic is good for you. Garlic adds excellent flavor to everything. I'm not going to do anything special to it. I'm going to just drop the cloves, maybe cut them in half. Drop my cloves of garlic right in there. I love all this extra flavor. Like I said, if you don't have all this stuff and you just use the flavor packet, that's fine. But this, I'm telling you, adds a beautiful extra flavor to it. Now I have some celery that I'm going to rough cut. All this stuff is going to come out and be strained out when the brisket is done. So don't worry about the big pieces, little pieces, whatever. I use the celery leaves as well. I like the flavor in the leaves. Okay, I'm going to dunk this right in here. If you have an extra bay leaf, which I actually have a plant that I grow, I'm going to add a little bit of extra bay leaf. Excuse me for being off camera. Well, I grab a bay leaf for my plant, which I bought on Etsy I think it was last spring. And the little plant was, no lie, only about 3 inches tall. And this thing would not grow. I had it outside. It was in a little pot. It stayed the same size for like 3 months. I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a little bit of food. So I put some Miracle-Gro on it, and this thing just went and exploded. I have it in the house because it's still winter outside. Now I'm going to take my flavor packet, cut that open. Now we're not adding any salt to this. We don't need pepper because the flavor packet has the peppercorns in it. So with this, let me turn my stove on. I'm going to add some water. It'll be well enough to cover. I want to make sure that there's plenty of water in here. So I'm not getting that unbelievably overpowering, I taste salt more than I taste my corned beef. Now I filled this almost to the top. It's about, I want to say about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch from the top. But it's covering. And don't forget, your corned beef is going to shrink. That's what they do. I mean, if you could barely fit it in the pot, don't worry about it, because within 2 to 3 hours, the thing is going to be half the size. So I always actually buy a little bit bigger by eyeing it, because I know it's going to do that. It's going to shrink down. So this is going to come to a boil, uncovered. And when it comes to the boil, I'm going to turn it all the way down to a very low simmer. I'm going to put my cover on. I'm going to set my timer for 3 hours. I like to put it on 3 hours. 3 hours, and it'll be perfect. I'm not going to cook. I have over here, this one is a personal favorite of mine. I like to use the red cabbage. You can use the green cabbage. It's totally up to you. But nutritionally, the red cabbage is better for you. So I'm kind of like partial to the red cabbage. And I have my red potatoes. You can buy the tiny baby potatoes. This way you won't have to cut them up, and just add them to that. And I have some carrots. I'm not going to add any of this until my corned beef is done. After the 3 hours, my corned beef is going to come out of the water. I'm going to strain out all the onions and garlic and celery and everything. I'm going to strain all of that out. I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to set the corned beef aside with a little bit of the juice on top of the corned beef. Cover it with a piece of foil, and that's going to sit and rest for at least 20 minutes to a half an hour. Within that time, I could get my potatoes done. I put my potatoes and my carrots cut up in the water that I cooked the corned beef in. When they're almost done, probably I want to say about 10 minutes or something, then I'm going to cut up my cabbage and add it as well. You don't want to add the cabbage too soon, because then the cabbage gets mushy. Nobody likes mushy cabbage. Or you could take your potatoes and your carrots out and then add your cabbage and cook the cabbage. I think it's about 15 minutes you need with the cabbage, and it comes out perfectly. But I also have a different method to cook cabbage, so we're going to get to that after. But in the meantime, I'm going to let this come to a boil, put my cover on it, turn it down, set my timer for 3 hours, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, I pulled out the corned beef. This was 3 hours cooking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this juice and pour it over the corned beef. And then I'm going to take a piece of foil and cover this and let it sit for a good 20 minutes to a half an hour while I get the stuff out of the pot and my potatoes and carrots cooked. Let's get this covered. I'm going to swap plates here because of tiny kitchen problems. And let's get all of this stuff out. I'm going to strain this out. These are all our onions and garlic and seasonings. Delicious. Nice flavor in this water. That's what we wanted. And the celery. Now, like I said before, you can use the tiny potatoes if you want to, the baby ones. Either the Yukons or I like to use the red skin. It's up to you. I didn't have any of the little ones, but I did cut up, I should say quartered up, some of the regular red skin potatoes, which I'm going to put right in the water. And these are going to go for, I want to say about 15-20 minutes until they're fork tender. We don't want them mushy, but we do want them fork tender. And I'm going to throw my carrots in there as well, because carrots and the potatoes take about the same amount of time to cook. I turned the heat up a little bit because though it was at a low simmer, when you put those cold potatoes in there, it like stops. So I turned it up. I'm going to slant my cover there a little bit, but that's going to cook. And in the meantime, I'm going to get my cabbage all sliced up. Now, a lot of people will put the cabbage directly in with the potatoes and the carrots. You can do that. Most of the time I do that, which I'm probably going to do today because I like the cabbage getting the flavors of the water that the corned beef was cooking in it. I like that flavor all together. So I'm probably just going to put it all together in there. But another idea that I talked about earlier that I was going to share with you guys is you could cut your cabbage in small thin pieces and saute it in a pan with butter. That's also really delicious. So you could try that if you don't want to add that to the water. But I just find putting everything in one pot is just an easy cleanup. But some people feel that the cabbage takes over the flavor of the water and then you have everything tasting like cabbage. I don't mind, but if that bothers you, then that's another option where you could do with the cabbage. Okay, I'm leaving these pieces fairly large, like little wedges, so it kind of holds together. Okay, so I'm going to set this for about 15 minutes. So we get these potatoes and these carrots done. When they're done, I'm going to take them out. Oh no, I'm not going to take them out. After about 15 minutes or 10 minutes or so, I'm going to put my cabbage in, and the cabbage takes 15 minutes additional time. And then I'm going to put it all together. Then we'll have some corned beef and cabbage. Okay, the moment I've been waiting for. Ta-ta-ta-ta! Deliciousness. We got our cabbage that's perfectly cooked. We got our potatoes that are perfectly cooked, and our delicious sweet carrots. And all I did is put a tiny bit of butter on top of the potatoes because that's the way I like it. So I'm going to slice into this, and you're going to see just how beautiful and tender this corned beef is. I mean, you don't even need a knife. It just basically just falls apart. Oh my God. That is so delicious. Get me the mustard, please. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know what you think. Like and share, please. Subscribe. Have your friends subscribe. I really enjoy hearing from everybody. And get in the kitchen and cook. Ciao.